So, the Isle of Armour has been out for a few weeks. Not great. As far as DLC goes for Pokemon Sword and Shield, I can't say I expected much more. Given the main game was rushed and unfinished, I'm sad to say this DLC feels exactly the same. Textures and graphics are still very unpolished and genuinely bad looking in places, and they still didn't fix the fucking trees. But I'm going to go through this in segments to better articulate my points and have a little bit more structure to the whole thing. So why don't we start off with that all-important story. The story of the Isle of Armour is mainly centered around the Pokemon Kubfu, a new Pokemon introduced into the DLC and is apparently a legendary Pokemon. Kubfu evolves because apparently legendaries evolving is just commonplace now throughout the story, and I'll go more in depth with that soon. So we begin the story by arriving at the Isle of Armour and being greeted by Clara or the other guy. It's made obvious from the start that both characters aren't really too friendly. They're the classic friendly to your face, but behind the scenes they are doing everything they can to impede your progress type of character. I don't mind this kind of character and honestly think it works quite well for the story, not that they really do much with it. Anyway, so they start off by battling you to test if you're strong enough to explore the Isle on your own, by sending out 2 pre-evolved Pokemon that will be around level 60. So once you no doubt destroy the poor little Pokemon with your level 100 Zamazenta, they retreat back to the dojo, telling the co-owner of the dojo, Honey, that you were unable to find the place. Of course, the dojo is about a 30-second run from where you were, so their master plan fails. It's in the dojo where you meet Honey and the dojo master, Mustard. Mustard is an old dojo master who is wise and was once, and definitely still is not, a very strong Pokemon trainer. Mustard first tests your strength once again by sending out 2 pre-evolved Pokemon to be obliterated by your level 100 Zamazenta, and once you pass, tasks you alongside the other dojo members with 3 very special and unique tasks. The third of which is definitely not a final battle against Clara or the psychic guy. The first task is to chase down these very quick Slowpoke, who managed to steal the dojo uniform from one of your rivals. They run in a set path, however, so you don't even really need to chase them, you just kind of find out where they run and stand there. And once all 3 Slowpoke have been defeated, you will retrieve the dojo uniform that the Slowpoke originally stole from your rivals. Not that it really matters because they never wear it anyway. Second mission now, and your task is to retrieve some special mushrooms known as Max Mushrooms that when combined into a soup, allow a Pokemon to Gigantamax if they are able to without needing to catch them from a den. Really cool stuff. What else is pretty cool here is that you aren't railroaded. They tell you they grow in dry, humid places and then just leave you to go explore, something not done a whole lot in Pokemon games these days. Or at least I would be saying that if they didn't tell you exactly where to find them, as you leave the dojo with a little cutscene showing the exact cave they are inside. So once you find the very well hidden mushrooms, your rivals chase after you, claiming they saw it first and therefore they get them. You stare at them with a blank smile until they challenge you to another battle, but watch out, this time they evolved one of their Pokemon, and they even added another pre-evolved Pokemon. So after one-shotting everything with your level 100 Zamazenta, your rivals concede defeat and allow you to take the mushrooms you found. You go back to the dojo to make some max soup, and yet your rivals insist on making it with the mushrooms that they found, no doubt to allow the player to keep the mushrooms they found to use for later. The final task is of course a battle against your rival one final time. I mean shit, if you didn't see this coming, I don't know what to tell you. This time, they ramp up their team a little by evolving another couple Pokemon, but they also add another unevolved Pokemon. Oh, I should also mention at this point I recorded this footage from my stream and totally forgot I might actually use this for later, so there might be a few things hovering at the top for a while. There's something really cool about this battle, other than the fact that they Dynamax their Slowbro at long last, is that they actually start the battle with either Toxic Spikes or Psychic Terrain depending on who you're fighting. This is actually a really cool idea, and I hope that they explore this in future Pokemon games. But of course, once you absolutely demolish them, they concede defeat once and for all, feeling bad for their actions against you that weren't really that bad, but I mean sure. They say they deserve to be expelled from the dojo, and of course Mustard just meets this with a hearty chuckle and a "we'll just work on your heart, and all's well that ends well." Oh yes, and the thing you were striving toward this whole time is what was known as the secret armor, which of course turns out to be Kubfu. If you didn't see this coming, I don't know what to tell you. So Mustard hands you a Cubfu who is very shy and tasks you with showing it around the island and befriending it by visiting specific spots and blankly smiling out at nothing. I'm sorry, was I the only one who laughed at this? It just looks so silly and lazily done. Like, could you really not do a little animation, a high five, or something? But anyway, you walk the Cubfu around a little bit and it's finally time to evolve it. The way to do this is to scale one of two towers, the Tower of Waters or the Tower of Darkness. Each tower contains 5 floors, which houses 5 trainers you must fight and defeat with Cubfu alone. They recommend you have Cubfu to level 70 before you attempt this, and honestly, yes, you should. Unfortunately, this tower is not one you can just win with strategy. It's all or nothing with Cubfu, and if you pick the Tower of Waters, you're gonna have a lot tougher of a time scaling it. That being said, all the trainers use pre-evolution Pokemon, so even then it's not immensely difficult to scale. What is immensely difficult, however, is Mustard, the final opponent of each tower, ridding his old man facade to become the powerful trainer we all knew he was going to be. Which, once again, if you didn't see coming, I don't know what to tell you. Sporting his very own Cubfu at level 70, and it knows Aerial Ace. So basically this is an RNG battle in hoping he doesn't spam Aerial Ace, because my Cubfu at least couldn't outspeed him even a level above. But luckily it seems to be in his code to only use it once before focusing on Brick Breaks until you beat him. That certainly didn't stop him from critting me 2/3 of the time and making my first fight against him feel like an impossible victory. But anyway, once you beat him, you're allowed to read the Scroll of Water or Darkness depending on what tower you scaled and evolve Cubfu into Urshifu, taking on one of 2 stances which decides its secondary typing depending on which tower you scaled. Now you said about making Urshifu Gigantamax, however this cannot be done with a simple max soup. No, this instead requires something else. It's at this point that Hop arrives wanting to do research or something on the Isle and decides to help you try and Gigantamax Urshifu. You go to the Forest of Focus and go do very menial chores to try and get some honey from Lilligant and Applin, as some kind of special honey is believed to be what is required to Gigantamax Urshifu. However, after Hop licks a sticky substance from your hair, you conclude that this isn't what Urshifu needs. Finally, you settle on one Honeycomb Island. When you arrive, you find the central tree beaming with Dynamax energy, and of course, that's what you want. However, you are attacked by a Vespiquen and get pulled into a den. Somehow. I don't know if this was just because I made a weaker team for the Isle of Armour stuff, but this Vespiquen was actually really hard to take down. Let me know how you went with the level 100 team, because I'm not sure if they buffed its stats or... Regardless, once defeated, you get the honey and allow Urshifu to Gigantamax, and are called back to the dojo so that Mustard can see your Gigantamax Urshifu. Of course, he now wants to see your power in full with the Gigantamaxed Urshifu, and asks you to step out to the battlefield in order to challenge him. This time, however, Mustard ain't fucking around and he uses his actual team. I was pleasantly surprised with this, as he actually kicked my ass the first time I fought him, until I leveled up Urshifu and just spammed X items to win. Don't judge me. His team isn't even purely fighting type, in fact only about half of it is, and his Pokemon actually have somewhat competitive movesets and abilities. Well done, Game Freak. And once Mustard is defeated, that's it. That's the story. It takes around 2 hours maybe. It took me about 4, but that was with catching Pokemon and exploring and doing other things in between. I have to say I was expecting more, but fine, I guess the story isn't really what people bought the Isle of Armour for. The selection of Pokemon has increased by about 100 new or old Pokemon to bring back the Sword and Shield. Not a bad effort, but certainly not a great one. Of course, we have the obvious returning Bulbasaur and Squirtle lines, which I have to say is pretty funny. They weren't even in the original decks. Game Freak aren't even remotely being subtle about the favoritism at this point. Some notable returns for me were Lycanroc, Skarmory, Heracross, Kingdra. Yeah, that's about it. The others I'm just kind of okay with, or just confused by, like Dunsparce. I mean, did we really need Dunsparce? Did we really need Miltank, Tauros, and Buffalint? It just feels a little redundant, especially Tauros and Buffalint. They're basically the same Pokemon. But I digress. A lot of people are happy that their favourites returned, and it has certainly made competitive Pokemon more varied. Not that I really get into that stuff. I feel like there was a reasonably healthy balance of returns, which I'm honestly surprised about. I kind of figured at least 40% of them would be Kanto Pokemon. But overall it wasn't too bad, and I'm excited for more to return in the Crown Tundra. Unfortunately, the music, I have to say, was pretty disappointing. There weren't really many themes I went back to listen to immediately after, which I have done consistently with a few tracks from past games basically every time I play them for the first time. Outside of maybe Clara's theme, this reigns true for the whole thing. Except Mustard's final battle theme, holy shit! What the hell happened here? The rest of the music was mediocre or bad, and then they just hit you with this. This theme is actually incredible. It captures the intense moment of him going all out on you beautifully and suits a final battle so much better than Leon's champion theme ever did. It's honestly a shame they used this for his battle in the Tower of Waters or Darkness, because having this be a surprise at the end when you were just expecting his normal battle theme would have been amazing. The other battle themes suit the characters, I guess. They didn't really have the same feeling as, say, Marnie's battle theme in the main game. Avery's especially is just boring. It's just the same 20 seconds over and over with barely anything going on, which now come to think of it suits his character perfectly. Ha! The only other remotely notable song I can think of is the Tower of Waters and Darkness themes, which play consistently during battle and outside of, which I kinda like. It makes it feel more unique. It's a little slower paced, but I definitely think it suits two friends climbing up a tower to achieve an ultimate goal. But still, overall, even with Mustard's theme in the mix, the music in general was just okay. It's there, but not much else. I'm not a music guy, so I can't comment on the octaves or whatever, so that's pretty much all I have to say. The entire Isle of Armour is basically just one big wild area, which I can definitely appreciate, and it has a healthy variety of Pokemon scattered about with different types of scenery. A nice calming beach, a lush forest and marshlands, humid caves, and even a small desert. They do feel a lot more natural of a transition than the regular wild area, where weather could go from intense sun to hailing at the snap of your fingers. And as far as I can tell, the weather is based around what kind of area you're in, so it won't rain in the desert and there won't be a sandstorm on the beach. There is also a large open ocean to explore. Some would say too open, to the point where it takes a solid 30 seconds or so to reach the next island with nothing but plain water and the occasional Sharpedo running you down in between. There are a few islands to find and explore in this ocean area, but they never really amount to much. Few items, some Pokemon who can only be found on that island, and that's about it. However, there is one island where Rotom appliances spawn. I just thought that was neat. There's also a woman there who will make a Galarica cuff for you if you find her 8 Galarica twigs. This cuff will allow Galarian Slowpoke to evolve into Galarian Slowbro. Concerning raid dens, oh yeah, there are a lot more than the original game. Even if you don't have any raids, if you collected all the watts from the dens across the isle, you'd be looking at about 5,000 minimum. I dare say this was an attempt to just make you feel like you're getting more bang for your buck, because they also do this with items. Items are everywhere in the Isle of Armour, shiny items and regular. I cannot tell you how many wishing pieces and other various items that are kind of annoying to get I have just picked up here, and that is a blatant way to make you feel like your money was well spent. I just end up ignoring most of them now because there's just that many. I know it sounds a bit harsh to call them lazy, but honestly, Game Freak finally listened to the community about the poor scaling of Pokemon sizes, particularly with Wailord, and as such there is an absolutely giant Wailord in the Isle of Armour, which you can only encounter once and then it never respawns. Wailord's size in every other aspect in the game, in battles, and when it follows you, remains hilariously the same. And yes, I did say when it follows you. In a striking move, the Isle of Armour now allows your Pokemon to follow you. What's the issue with this? Rather than scaling running speed to be similar among all Pokemon and tweak animations to make them not look terrible, Game Freak simply copy-pasted the running from Pokemon Camp. Okay, that doesn't sound too bad, right? And you'd be right. Recycling their previous work to implement a new feature fans have been wanting for ages is a good idea. At least until you actually see it. Because of the lazy implementation here, every Pokemon is either way too fast or way too slow. I don't think I've found a single Pokemon that just follows you perfectly and never lags too far behind or is always up your ass. Pokemon like Blastoise don't have a hope in hell in ever being behind you unless you run a few meters and then wait 20 seconds for it to catch up. It looks awful, to the point where I've disabled the feature because it's not even worth it. It feels cheap, looks cheap, and I honestly have no idea why they even went through with it. The Isle of Armour feels like a precursor to something we might actually enjoy. It's basically an entire area to give away to charge people for basic functions, like having your Pokemon follow you and having access to more of the national decks at your leisure. Maybe my expectations were too high coming into this, but for $45 I was expecting a lot more bang for my buck. I'm paying over half the price of the original game for this little extra area, and honestly right now I wouldn't recommend you get the expansion pass. You can get the new Pokemon via trade from other people in the base game, and until I see what the Crown Tundra has to offer, I would hardly value this DLC at $10, let alone $45. I'm sorry if this isn't what you wanted to hear, and maybe you really liked the DLC, and that's fine, you're entitled to your own opinion. I'm just sick of being disappointed frequently by Game Freak showing off a glimpse of a new feature in a trailer that I'm excited to see in full, only for the full feature to be that glimpse they showed in the trailer. And I kind of feel like that's where it is. Everything that was shown in the trailer is just what's in the DLC, there's not really much more. And again, maybe my expectations are too high, but when I buy a DLC for $45, I expect to be surprised. And outside of the final mustard battle and maybe the psychic terrain toxic spikes thing with Clara and Avery, I never really was. For being the first ever Pokemon DLC in the main series, this is ridiculously underwhelming, and I genuinely hope they learn from this and put more effort into the Crown Tundra. I'm sorry, but I didn't like this one. I'm really hoping that the Crown Tundra is going to be a lot better, and from what I've seen it looks a lot better, but I also thought the Isle of Armour looked really good in the trailer. But hey, let me know what you think in the comments and say if you agreed with me or not. I'd like to hear a nice range of opinions on this, especially if you are someone who actually liked the DLC. So don't be afraid to comment and tell me how wrong I am or how right I am. And don't forget to catch me on my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/funmachine8. I generally stream at about 11 PM AEST, so hopefully I'll see you there.